Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Life in Air Show podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Life in Air Show, we help people make more, work less, and live awesome lives. Lives that are served by their business rather than sacrificed. I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. What's up, man?
Hey, man. So I'm looking forward to this particular episode because what we're going to be talking about is how to literally eliminate yourself out of your business. And I think for you, it would be a really good thing to eliminate yourself out of the business, man. If you weren't around,
I mean,
man,
dude, I don't.
life would be so much easier, so much better with everything here.
Right. I mean, it's gonna be the Peter show. Forget about the Life in Air Show.
Yeah.
You can
Actually, it might be
right?
a Polish show.
Right. Well, like until that moment happens, we have something else to help you with. And we're going to be interviewing Sharad Mehta. He is a real estate investor. He has a large rental portfolio. He flips 20, 25 properties a year. He has a property management company and a software company. And this guy has 4 businesses. And in his real estate investing business alone, he works just a couple hours a week. And we're going to kind of dive into some of the secrets that have allowed him to do that, some of the ways that he's removed himself from the business, how he's empowered other people to run the business for him, and what his role looks like. Dude, it's an awesome episode.
Yeah. One thing you didn't mention, Bojo, I think it's important for people to know is this. He lives in San Diego. His flipping business and his real estate business is in Indiana.
Yeah,
so
wild.
obviously, and he's not traveling there every single day. So how you create the business? So if you have not just a real estate business, but I would say any kind of business, I would highly recommend you guys listen to this because we talked about people, we talk about hiring, we talk about some really good intricacies that he shares in this. And at the end of the podcast, I asked him about this, one of his favorite mistakes. And the answer that he gave, I think, will help a lot of people dealing with some of the limiting beliefs that you may have had as your experience as you're building out your own business. So I'm excited about this episode. He brought some great interaction. So I said, let's go into it, man.
Let's do it. Here's our episode. Enjoy the interview. Sharad, what's up, man? Welcome to the Life in Air Show.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Polish. Thank you for having me on the show.
I love that you just called him Polish, not even Peter. Like, that's awesome. I love that. You're going to...
I don't know. It's just like the first name. Yeah.
At least you didn't call me Polish. It's all good, man.
Right.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's just like in my mind.
No, dude. Please don't take that back. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He gets a kick out of it.
I do.
It's all good, man. You can keep calling me till the rest of the show.
Yeah. So, dude, we're gonna have an opposite episode, and so I had the chance to speak with you.
I should change my name to Indian Peter.
Dude, there we go.
Dude, hold on a second. What am I gonna be though? Because I'm Polish too. I don't know what I'm gonna be.
You're just a Polish wannabe.
The third Peter.
Yeah, right. So
did you say third, like number 3, or T,
number
like
3.
A third?
P3.
No, number 3. Number 3.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It might have to happen. We'll have to run that through branding. See what they say.
Yeah.
So listen, man. I was fascinated with your story, and I know you have real value to add to the listeners and the viewers. And just for some background, like you've had a tremendous amount of success in the real estate investing niche in multiple areas. Just give us a quick outline of what that looks like for you right now.
Yeah, so right now, I've been investing since August 2010, so about almost 14 years, I guess. Right now, I own about 60 odd rental units, right? 95% of them are paid for free and clear. And I own a property management company. We manage about 200 to 50 units. I forgot the last count. And also I flip about 25 to 30 houses. So that's my real estate side of the business. Plus I am the owner and founder of Simply, the best CRM for real estate investors out there. So I started that back in 2016 when I moved from Chicago to San Diego area where I live now is when I started the Simply CRM, and that's what takes the most of my time now.
So, and so when we spoke, this is one of the things that really fascinated me. You said that you spend literally, single digit hours per week on your real estate business, which includes both the flipping and the rentals. And this is something like your portfolio, it's sizable, and you're flipping, 20, 25 houses a year. Like that's a lot of work. And for some people, like that's a 60-hour a week job. let's dive into that. Like how are you able to do that? And what have been like, some of the things that you think have allowed you to do that while other people just like are working their fingers to the bone?
Yeah, I would say systems, processes, and people. That's that's pretty much it. There's no secret. I mean, I'm not doing anything that I have a secret sauce or anything. So I own four businesses, I guess, if you count my rental properties as a separate business, and I have absolutely the most amazing people. For example, in my house flipping business, the project manager that I have, she's been with me since 2015 or 16, about 8 years now. And she lives in California, so our business is very virtual. I live in California, my project manager lives in California, and I have one person in Philippines, and we flip houses in Indiana. We don't have anyone local in Indiana. So it's a very remote business. I haven't been to Indiana in about a couple of years. I'm going there next month. My brother lives there, so I'm actually going to visiting my brother. But I'm going to go by meet my people in Indiana, the property management team in Indiana. But it's having the right people and having the right systems and processes. Then honestly, for me, for my business, is just getting out of their way. If someone is doing a really good job at what they're supposed to be doing, then honestly get out of the way. Like Claudia, for example, she started out as an assistant that she was helping with some small stuff here and there. But she was really good at what she was doing. I kept giving her more and more responsibilities. I just kept trusting her with more responsibilities to the point where I'm like, hey, just Claudia, I'm going to keep giving you more responsibilities and just let me know when it's too much. To the point where now she makes the decision on what property we should buy. She's helping me on selling these properties. She's managing the project from start to finish. I have no idea the contractors that are working on our projects. I don't know their names. I've never seen them, never talked to them ever. And she's the one who's managing the entire process for us. But she's earned that trust in the business. We have a separate checking account set up for our project management. So I put like $10,000, $15,000 once a month in that account. And then from there, she like pays the contractors and I make the decision based on the numbers. I look at this is how much we bought the property for, this is how much we thought we'll put in it, this is how much we thought we'll sell the property for, this is how much our expected profit for. Do the numbers make sense? Did we exceed, meet, or come below? If we exceed or meet, I'm like, hey, let's just keep doing more and more of that.
So, man, okay, so I gotta ask this because a lot of people that I'm hearing have problems finding contractors, help, people, staff, whatever it is, locally. Like, forget about even doing this virtually. And so, back me up a little bit and tell me how you're doing this as much as you're able to. I mean, I know this isn't like, we could probably go on for hours about this, but when I'm seeing so many people that can't even seem to do well with getting help, like that are face to face, where like the trust is it's easier to manage that. It's easier to check in on them. How are you doing this like remotely?
I think one thing that we've done, like when I look across different businesses that I have, is if we hire someone, we don't hire them to be, hey, you are gonna be responsible for these big roles, right? That like nobody looking back, I don't think we've had anybody like start with tons and tons of responsibilities. Like everyone that we have in a company that are at the like they if you want to call them executive level position, they've kind of earned their way to that role. So just thinking the same way back to the contractors, what we have done is if we're working with a new contractor, rather than if, let's say, we have a $50,000, $60,000 rehab project, we're not gonna, in most cases, it'll be very exceptional case where we just give it to a new contractor. But in most cases, we'll have that contractor give them like a small project, right? Maybe $5,000, $7,000 project where they're just doing some flooring and paint, for example. And if they do a really good job, then they've earned their right to get a bigger project, like $10,000, $15,000 project, right? If they do a really good job, then we can trust them with more responsibilities. If someone screws up on a $5,000, $7,000 project, it's not the end of the world for us. If we lose money on that specific rehab, but at least we didn't trust this contractor right out of the gate with $50,000 project, right? So that helps us because we have I own a property management company and we have like several projects going on. So we can, we have the luxury of taking a contractor, testing them out with a small project. I mean, if you don't have that luxury, then you can break your entire project into different phases rather than if you need roof done, if you need paint done, flooring done, plumbing, electric, and whatnot. So break it out into smaller pieces. The entire project might be $50,000, but tell the contractor, hey, this is a new relationship that we're starting out. And, let's just date before we get married. I'm going to give you this one piece of the project to work on. And I want to make sure that we're both happy with how things work. If we are, then we'll go on to the next part of the project. And then that's how you build relationship and that's how you build trust, right? I mean, we want to make sure the contractor is also happy with how we're going to pay. If the contractor has the expectation of, he's the best contractor, but if he has the expectation of, hey, I want to get paid 75% upfront, we're not going to do that. We don't do that, right? So then the relationship might break just right out of the gate. So you want to make sure it's a win-win situation for the contractor and yourself also, because working with the contractor, it's a relationship that you're going to maintain over and over again. It's not like a one and done deal, right? It's not like you're buying life insurance that you're going to do like once and then not all the time. Like contractor, if you're working with it, if you're flipping houses, it's just someone you're going to work multiple projects in a year. So you want to make sure that you're happy, then the contractor is also happy in that situation. And the contractor really cares about it. They get paid on time and they don't have to like haggle a lot. If they give you good pricing, then you just kind of keep them happy. And then we're also happy with the quality of the work.
So, man, I love that approach. And so what I'm hearing is you're kind of mitigating risk up front by starting them small. And along those lines, when you're starting people small, are you also, I've heard some people use this approach where like, hey, I'm going to hire 3 people or 5 people for this similar position, and I'm going to see who kind of rises to the top and who does well and who doesn't. Do you prescribe to that approach, or are you really kind of just going on one person at a time? And
you could, if it's a small project, if it's something like a one-off project that you need, right? If you need, like example I'll give you is, let's say if you need to write some content for your website, like that's something you can have 3 people write content, and then you can see which one really, gives you the best content and is also responsive to your questions. But if it's a rehab project, then it's kind of hard to have multiple people be working on it. It's just going to create a mess. But if you have three separate projects going on, and if you want to go down the route of having 3 different people try out 3 different projects, that's one way to do that. But you can definitely do that on a smaller task that you have, right? Writing content, for example, editing a video or something like that, where you can have multiple people do the same thing, which we do all the time. And multiple people do that and see which person, like you might have one person who's better in quality, but it's like super hard to get response from him. And you have other person whose quality is not as good, but pretty good, like good enough, but he's very responsible, very motivated, open to feedback. But that's a person you can work with, right? You can give them feedback on, hey, can you make changes to how you are editing the video? Like I like this style or that style. So for us, when we're hiring someone, the most important thing we look for is not the skill, but the mindset, the attitude that they have. And if a person doesn't have the right attitude, right? And if they're stealing money from the company, like you're saying, in an extreme case, there is no training that you can send the person to and say, hey, can you go take this training and learn how to be honest? Either they are honest or they're not. Like there's no like gray area in that. But if the person is super honest, hardworking, willing to, learn things, they don't have the right skill set, you can have anybody learn any skill set. That stuff is easy, right? It's the attitude, the skill set, the right mindset. That's the difficult thing to find people on. Once you find that, those people are absolutely gold, right? You can train them on any skill set that you have. And that's what we look for. Is does this person have the right attitude to show up? Are they willing to learn? Like, are they open to taking feedback and applying that in their role and just learning from it? If that's the case, then yeah, you can definitely give them like someone who doesn't have the skill. Maybe they'll take an extra couple of weeks or a month to pick up. But once they get to that skill set, they're going to be an absolute rock star.
Are there any skills or assessments or tests that you can use early on in a hiring process to kind of like get a gauge on those things? Like how do you measure that?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. It's a very subjective thing. So there's really no way to measure that. It's honestly, you go based on your gut, right? When you hire someone, you kind of look at, okay, do they show up on time? Are they detail oriented? Like some things we do is when we make a job posting, like at the very end, the last sentence we'll put is, hey, reply back to this job posting, and then we'll put like a separate phrase, like I'm awesome, I'm a rock star, something like that. If they don't reply back, like they didn't even read the entire job posting, so they're just immediately disqualified. And then we ask them to send us a video, for example. If they don't send video, if they don't put effort in that video, right, they're immediately like disqualified. So some things you can look for upfront is if I need this person to do certain things, be detail oriented, and they didn't even read the entire job description and come back and go to the last line, like, do I want this person to be helping me in the role that I have? And the effort that they're putting in, sending the video, for example, how are they showing up for the interview? Like those things, you get a pretty good sense of how this person is going to show up later on. If they're not putting 100% during the interview process, during the application process, they're just not going to be a good fit for us.
I'm curious, do you do that kind of an interview process they just described for contractors too? Like, do you have them go through the interview?
Not the contractors. Not the contractors. I'm talking about like some other, like more like a full-time role. But the contractors, we will still, like, I'm not involved in hiring contractors, but Claudia is. So she will make sure she feels good about the person that we're hiring with, right? We don't want someone who's going to be dictating, hey, this is how I'm going to do things, you take it or leave it. That's just not going to work for us, right? We need someone who's going to be flexible because we have multiple projects going on at any given time. If someone has a system that works for them, it might be a great system for them, but if it doesn't work for how we run things, then it's not going to be a good fit. If it checks up every other box that we have, that they show up on time, they're very professional. But if they don't have a little bit of flexibility to jump from one project to another, depending on our need, because we have a lot of rental property. So if a tenant moves out, sometimes we have a little bit of crunch situation. We need to get that property ready to meet certain timeline to, put it back on the market before the end of the month. But if the contractor is not willing to do that, then it's not going to be a good fit for us. It might be a great contractor. They have their own way of doing things. But if we cannot be on the same wavelength, then it's not going to work for us. Yeah, so we still go based on that. And one other good, like check for us is if we have someone who's on our team, they've been with us, they're absolutely rock star, and they refer someone over, there's a really good likelihood that they're referring someone similar to how that person operates, right? But on the other side, if I have someone who's like slacking, not showing up, and if they refer someone, it's going to be, that person, like right off the gate, it's going to be a difficult fit for us. So like the referral is a very important source for us. Most of the people that we're hiring now in our team are coming from referrals now. We'll still post ads if we have like a big need of, we need to hire 4 or 5 people, we'll post ad. But if it's like 1, 2 people, and then we have a little bit of time, it's not like a time sensitive, then we'll ask our team member, hey, can you please refer someone? And someone who's been with us for a couple of years, super hardworking and very responsible, and they refer someone, there's a very good likelihood that the person that they're referring to is going to be similar to how our employee operates, our team member operates.
Yeah, but the only thing, the reason why I ask, because it sounds to me like from my perspective as I'm listening to you, is that you have this dating process set up for your businesses and different, even like contractors, that gets put in place before they start doing this. Like, I feel like a lot of real estate investors are the one who have a lot of trouble with contractors. Like, if you really think about it, in the real estate industry, that, there is such a bad limiting beliefs about contractors, right? And I think one of the reasons why that happens is because, I need a roof. I'm going to go and bid, 4 different contractors, and I'm going to see which bids are working the best, on my budget and all that kind of stuff. You're hired, right?
Yeah.
You actually you have some criteria that you go, have them date those contractors before you get them full on. And I think that's one of the reasons that allows you to grow that company and, put things off and have someone like Claudia take over. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have that luxury because we have several projects going on, so we can have someone do a small piece of the entire project just to test out. But the contractors that we have now at this point, they've been with us for a very long time.
Yeah.
But they got to this point by doing smaller projects for us and earning their way into bigger projects. I would definitely, if you're just starting out and you have a big rehab project, even like you have one rehab project, have the contractor just bid on the entire project and say, hey, and just be very open and say, this is a new relationship for both of us. I don't know how it's going to work out. Hopefully, this is a long-term great relationship for both of us. But let's just start out with a small part of the project and see how it goes for you and me. And then contractors, like, they're going to be okay with it. And if they're professional, they understand, they see the long-term vision of, what you could do, how many, if you explain them, I'm an investor, I'm going to be doing multiple projects. So this could be a recurring, business for you. I mean, think about it. Like if you have a contractor that you're giving consistent work to, now they don't have to go out and look for another job. They don't have to go bid on other jobs. Like you're just basically taking their entire marketing and sales budget away by just being their, client. Mm-hmm. So that makes a difference. Like the contractor would be able to give you better pricing because they're not out there bidding on jobs, trying to sell projects. They just already have a project. So if you're open with them and say, I'm just going to give you a small part of it, just want to make sure it works out for you, works out for me. If it does, great. If not, then you get paid for that small part, which is fair. And then we'll go our separate ways.
Love it.
So talk to me a little bit. I'm curious, like, I've heard people, and I've had this experience where someone, they right off the, out of the gate, they start doing really well. But then like kind of get into the business and they're not performing quite at the level you'd hoped. How do you figure out, and do you have a way to discern, like, how do you pull them aside? Do you have a discussion? Like, how do you, what's your way to kind of, or do you just let them go? Like, how quickly are you to like let people go? And how do you deal with people that aren't quite performing at the level that you expect of them?
Yeah, so we definitely give them like fair warning, fair opportunities to improve. I mean, it's going to happen if you're hiring enough people that just the nature of the business, you're going to have some bad hires. So one thing is to be very clear what they're responsible for. And then make sure that what you're holding them accountable for is within their control. For example, if I give you an example of Claudia, my project manager. So she's responsible for making sure from the time we buy the house to the time we list it, it's within 90 days or shorter. Now, that's possible if the house is vacant when we buy it. If the house is occupied and we have to evict a tenant, that could take us a month or two. So I want to make sure that, we set the right expectation and it's something that she has control on. If she's responsible for the project management side of it, and I hold her accountable for the numbers for acquisition or property management, for example, it's not fair to us, fair to her, because she has no control on that. So there's like two parts of the process. One is the output, which is the project coming out on time, would be the output. And the second is the input of the effort that you're putting in. So if I put it in different contexts, for example, let's say if I want to lose weight, let's say I weigh 200 pounds, I want to get to like 160, 170 pounds. So going from 200 to 160, 170, that's the output. Right? So that's what I want to get to. But I don't really control that. What I control is how often do I go to gyms, right? And how often, like, what am I eating? So those are the two things that I control. So rather than getting obsessed with, hey, I weighed 200 pounds yesterday, I'm still 200 pounds. It's not going to help me just going crazy about that. I need to set up a habit of, am I going to gym every day? Am I eating clean every day? Right? Then I look at every other week or once a month, depending on what the goal is. You look at every so often. If at the end of the month, I go from 200 to 205, for example, then I need to look at, there's something in my input that's broken. Either I might be going to the gym, but I'm just sitting there watching TV, eating chips, right? Or I'm just eating absolute crap. I'm going to the gym every single day, but after gym, I'm eating McDonald's, supersizing my meal, having a diet soda. So then, like, those are the only two things that are possible. Like, there's nothing else. If I'm going to the gym, eating healthy, and like properly working out at the gym, then it's just a matter of time before I'm going to lose weight. So that's what I will hold myself accountable for is, am I going to gym? Am I eating healthy? And then the goal is just a matter of time. So that's what we would do with our team. Like, for example, in customer support, we just make sure that, they're controlling they're doing the things that are within their control. Are they getting back to the customer on time? Whether the customer gives a 5-star rating or a 1-star rating, that's really out of our control. Like, but if we do certain things correctly and follow it, it's just going to happen that people are going to give us a good review. But you don't go crazy about that. You just go crazy about, like, you obsess about the process that you have, things that you control. Hey, if I get back to the customer on time, if I am giving them the right information, then they should be happy, but they still give you 1-star rating. Maybe it's something out of control. Maybe they're having a bad day. They're just not happy about something else. And they just happen to, like, we just happen to ask them for a review at a very wrong time, which we don't control. And they give us a poor rating. But we go back, did we do everything we would have done in under our process? If that's the case, then there's nothing to worry about.
Got it. So I'm hearing like almost like input and output, results based and action based metrics, like and linking those together for really kind of like determining what's within the scope of your responsibility that you can do. And the reason I'm asking about all the people stuff so much is I think that's where, and maybe your experience has been different, but when I look at all these other people who are working a whole lot more, and certainly maybe they don't have the systems and the processes in place, but it seems like, at least from my perspective, that most people struggle with the people component, and that seems like it's more intricate and more complicated than putting together SOPs. Would you agree with that, or do you feel it differently?
No, I agree with that. I mean, SOP is one part of it. You also need the right person to drive the SOP. But again, you can have the fastest car in the world, but you need the right driver to drive the car. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure like both pieces are coming together. To me personally, people component is more important than SOP. You could have the best SOP in the world, but if you don't have the right person, then the SOP is only going to take you so far. But if you have not the perfect SOP, but you have absolutely the right person, that person is going to help you improve the SOP. Right. So ideally, you want to start with a good enough SOP and find the right person. And as that person is working in that role, then improve the SOP. But yeah, for me, I would say hands down, people are absolutely the most important part of the business. Ideally, you want to have the best perfect SOP to start out with. But if you have something good enough, or even if you don't have something, right, you find the right person, that person is going to help you create the SOP. When I started house flipping, when I had cloud, I didn't have any, I had some processes, but when you hire someone, it changes the dynamics of how you're doing certain things, right? But then Claudia helped me with that SOP in my property management business, in my, software business. You hire the right people, and then you give them the responsibility of, hey, let's just come up with the right SOP, because my vision for you is you're not always going to be doing this. Like, you're going to, go to the next level in the company, but make sure the next person that we hire to replace you in this role can be up and running with the processes that you have set right here.
Oh, and Sharad, man, you're dropping a lot of wisdom here, man. I really appreciate all the stuff that you're sharing. I mean, you're not just a pretty face. Look at you.
Thank you, Polish
so listen,
reader.
Yeah. So listen, I got a question for you, because obviously you've been in this business for a very long time, 14 years, you said. And I'm curious, what's one of your favorite mistakes that made a tremendous impact on your business? Like, it was like a shifting moment for you in your business.
Oh man, that's a great question. Shifting moment. I would say like hiring wrong people probably was the biggest shifting moment. The reason I say that is, you don't know the value of like a good meal. For example, I'm going to put in like you don't know the value of a good meal until you've had a bad meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't appreciate a good person until you've hired a bad person. Like if you just happen to be fortunate that you always have had great people on your team, you sort of stop appreciating them. Not because that's your intent, because you just take it for granted. Until you find someone who's not as good, then you're like, oh man, just this person right here is such a rock star. And I didn't appreciate that until I hired this person to like help me give me the perspective of how good I have with this person. So looking back, like a couple of bad people that I've hired, actually in every business, like my house flipping business, property management business, and my software company, it's like the bad people that I've hired, that honestly looking back has been the biggest blessing because that makes me more grateful for the right people that I have in the business. It really makes me appreciate that I should not take these people for granted, that I'm very fortunate to have these people in my business. And that's something I make sure I communicate to my team. Like I'm very grateful. Like one thing we do in our team is we have them like rate their experience working with us every single week. So on a scale of 1 to 10, anything less than 10, we ask them, what can we do to make it a 10? Is there anything we can do? Just to make sure they know. And then we want to make sure that those things are implemented with something like a quick fix, right? If they talk about, oh, I don't get breaks during the day, for example, I'm just like going from call to call to call. I'm like, okay, let's just implement, after every call, like a 10-minute break for you to just, gather yourself, take notes, and before you move on to the next call. So those are simple things. But yeah, I mean, like having bad people at my company has been the biggest like mind shift for me in appreciating like, the great people that I have in my business now.
Love it, man. That's a great tip.
Yeah. Thank man, you. That's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, great lesson there, and I love that little nugget, man, of surveying your people. Do you have any other special ninja tricks that you can share with us of things you do differently before we wrap up the episode?
I mean, there's nothing like special that we do, right? It's just knowing at the end of the day, it's like any business in the world, it's a people business. So you got to make sure that people that are doing the work feel appreciated. Like if I have someone working in my company and they're not happy, just the output is never going to be good. Just it's impossible for an unhappy person to produce like the best quality work that they're capable of producing. So I want to make sure they're happy. And then the way they're happy is like they're doing things that they feel intellectually challenged with. And they like the company culture. They like being part of the team. And if not, just ask them, hey, are you happy working here? It's not, someone might be a great person, but they might not be the right person for in that role that you have. Right? The head of the marketing that I have right now, he started out as a VA for me. He just kept earning and earning and earning. The next role that he has, he makes like, last 5 years since he makes like more than 12, 15x from when he started, but he's earned his way into that. But that's the thing, like it would only happen when you ask them and you want to make sure that person is working at a level that they're capable of. You don't want to hire someone who has a PhD and they're replying to emails. That person is like rock star on paper, but do you have them in the right role? And then just asking people at the end of the day, it's just a simple community. Hey, are you happy with what you're doing here? Do you feel happy? If not, why not? could be something super simple that you've never even thought of. And you're like, okay, let's just change that. I mean, we have team all over the world now. And then I tell them, we want to build a culture, but if I'm not able to travel, just make sure you guys are meeting once a quarter in person and doing something, like whether it's a lunch, dinner, an outing or something, so you feel connected. And just such a simple thing, and people feel happy about that.
Man, I love that. What a powerful lesson. Man, I want to really thank you for being on the show and sharing these gems with our audience. And there's been some real impactful things you've shared. It's funny because like as you're talking about your business, I can see how and why you've kind of progressed to the software and expanded these things. Where can people learn more about you and the software?
Sure. I mean, I'm not really on any social media, but the best way would be through email, Sharad@resimply.com. So SHARAD at RESIMPLI.com. Yeah, more than happy to answer any questions they have, or if they want to connect more about anything.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Man, I can see why he basically, I'm looking at his software company. I'm thinking, okay, he's basically just taken systems, people, and processes and applied it to a larger scale, and helping other people with this stuff. So it's super cool. I love the way he thinks about working with people and how he's really built his business around and acknowledged and appreciates those people as well. That's allowed him to really have a pretty awesome life and business.
Yeah, and then one of the commonalities I feel like I gotten out of that particular interview as she was talking is, if you really think about it, I don't think he's talking about when it comes to growing this business as me, 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 me. He's looking more of like, how can I help you? How can I make sure that you're happy in this company? What do you need, right? How can I, let's date first before we get married. And I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people make in their business is because they just, I don't have time to date, right? Especially when it comes to hiring. I don't have time to date. We need to get married, kind of a thing, right? To using this analogy. And I think that big mindset shift has helped him to grow this business, because sounds to me like his manager, Claudia, has basically, started with very small task at the beginning, and she's internal, grew into basically running his entire business. Then all the other people that he's hiring, he's taking the same type of a methodology, same type of a hiring that, dating before you get married, looking for the people. Like he mentioned, like, hey, if they're not happy, they're not going to give the best input. And I think that's very true. And most of the times, business owners don't look at it. They're like, you know what? You're getting paid. You need to do your job. And that's about it. You know what I mean? And I think it's a big shift on how you operate the business.
Well, man, I think, yeah, a few of my favorite nuggets from this episode, and there were a lot. One is what you said, like, well, a couple of one you mentioned already. One is like start them small with tasks that are not going to ruin the business or not going to are crucial tasks or activities that could really go wrong if they were not performed well. Making sure your employees are happy, your contractors are happy, asking them about that and getting genuine feedback. He talked about creating a community. He talked about bringing people together, even though he's not there on site, getting together at least quarterly to do something outside of the office, outside of the job. He talked about also like really appreciating and acknowledging people. And I also heard about setting expectations and giving people responsibility for things that only they have control over. Like, don't give them something that they're responsible for that they have no influence over, right? So we talked about the input and the output based metrics. Lots of gold.
That's an important distinction right there, which is that they have control over.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I don't think that's the case, and that's why people fall off.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, and I think that's where, we talk about this business builder workshop where you got your action-based metrics and results-based metrics. And assuming you're doing the right actions, like those results will eventually come. But if you're doing the wrong things, or if you're trying to conquer something that you have no influence over, like that's going to be frustrating and it's going to be a disappointing experience, probably for everybody. I also enjoyed like talking about, and we do some of this stuff in Life in here as well, is like really trying to screen people early for the presence or absence of the right kind of attitude, right? It's not necessarily the exact skill set like you talked about, because you can develop that, but more so the attitude, the humility, really. We didn't use that word, but essentially that's what it is: the humility and the hunger to learn and to grow and to improve. Like all of these seem like they're pertinent to the right hire. The one thing he didn't talk about was like limiting beliefs around hiring people. Like it seems like he recognized this early on, and that's probably one of the large factors that have contributed to success.
Well, I'm thinking about one of the limiting beliefs he did brought it up is when I asked him about, his favorite failure. He talked about, hiring that pretty much in every single company they had, he hired someone who was wrong for the company, right? Didn't perform. There was basically this quote unquote bad contractor, right? And one of the things that he mentioned is that person actually helped him appreciate all the other people that he has in the company that are doing great, right? And making sure that he focuses on them, helping them grow and things like that. And the other aspect of it is that hire did not create that limiting belief for him to say, well, I can't hire because, contractors are bad or whatever it might be, which I think a lot of people fall into it. He used that mistake, or not say mistake, the failure or whatever you want to call it, to a benefit, right? It was a good thing because it helped him grow. And I think that is an example of the methodology and thinking that he's using in his companies in order to grow to the next level. Because think about it this way. He's talking about SOPs and things like that. I bet you, and we didn't ask him that, but I bet you once he created an SOP or somebody in the company created an SOP, that SOP was perfect. I don't think that was the case. There was probably a lot of failures that even happened in that SOP. However, if those failures, you looked at it from the perspective of they're bad, then all of a sudden you might get stopped and actually improving it or making it better or going to the next level or whatever it might be, right? But no, he is literally using those things to help him. It's a stepping stones to help him grow the company. And I think that's a big difference with, when you successful business owners are, I think, operate that way.
Yeah, totally, dude. And I also, last thing I'd say is like how, that kind of person that is a good hire, oftentimes, good birds of a feather flock together, right? So he's utilized the network that he's created through his good hires to therefore like forward the company by asking them for the referrals. Yep. So I think that's like, something that we've seen as well, right? Like good people know good people, good contractors know good contractors.
One other thing that got out of this is, he didn't really mention this, is I feel like the companies that he's built, they're not about him. Yeah. It's not about, I have to be the guy, I have to grow this. Like the need for significance is not really there. There's a bigger reason why he's growing these companies, and he's allowing and looking for and encouraging people to step into their higher roles to basically take over the company and start running this company, because it's not just about him. Now it's like, he's living in San Diego. He's got real estate in Indiana, right? And that is such a powerful mindset shift that I think helps if people start looking from that perspective, like listeners on the call. You don't have to be the one to make these big deals or whatever it might be. If there's something bigger than you, bigger reason, bigger mission, and I bet you he's got some kind of a mission behind it, you're going to start growing that company, I think, much more effectively. So I think it was a great interview, man. The guy,
man. Yeah, really enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Like, listen, if you did, leave us a review, leave us a rating, give us a thumbs up. Tell somebody about this. Good people. Give us a referral to someone else who could benefit from this interview. As always, we appreciate you listening and tuning in. And hopefully, you see results in your business, in your life as a result of what you're learning with us. And we can help encourage you in any way possible. Until next time, we will see you next week, everyone. Take care.